عم يهتف بثلاث كلمات الله وسوريا وبشار.
رجالك يا بشار.
كنيسة وجامع متحدين والمحطي عنوان الدين وملايين السوريين وما بدهن إلا بشار.
رجالك يا بشار. سوريا. سوريا على الله.
الجيش السوري بوقفة عز وهز الكون وما بينهزوا. عندك عز الجيش السوري هالمغوار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
سوريا رجالنا فرسان لما بتنزل على الميدان للتحرير.
سوريا الله حامية.
يوسف عظمة عحصانو ينادي ابراهيم هانانو والسلطان باشا بزمانو شعل فرنسا بالنار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
والشيخ صالح بجباله قاد الثورة برجاله وحافظ وصى أشباله بسوريا بلد الأحرار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار. اليوم بنعيد بشار بالتحديد. رح نرجع ونعيد بشار بالتحديد. اليوم بنعيد بشار بالتحديد. رح نرجع ونعيد بشار بالتحديد.
نحنا فجر الحرية بحروف الأبجدية سريان وفينيقية غير سوريا ما بنختار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
قولوا بالصوت العالي بدنا نصون الرسالة للغالي وابن الغالي وبالروح بنفدي بشار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
الشعب السوري بساحاته للمجد بيرفع راياته عم يهتف بثلاث كلماته الله سوري
يا بشار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
نحن رجالك
الله وسوريا وبشار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار.
كنيسة عم متحدين والمحطي عنوان الدين وملايين السوريين وما بدهن إلا بشار.
نحن رجالك يا بشار. سوريا. سوريا.
Welcome everyone to the Mandala episode 13, where of course we are always providing you with a banter-packed infogasm of esoterics, politics, counterculture, and an evening of whimsical philosophizing with your friends about the really important things. Once again, I'd just like to request for everyone to, if you could, to share us out on your social media platforms. Kind of help boost us up a little bit as we're trying to get this going. I think that we've made a lot of gains recently in establishing a theme for the show, and it's been really great learning myself and going over these kind of stuff. And like I said last show, I've been doing the conspiracy research thing since YouTube started, basically, and I'm still learning new stuff as we kind of as I go back and forth with my co-host here, IXI, and our guests. It's been really great for me, and I hope that we can keep doing this and spread it out to people. It wasn't so regulated and flooded with little girls on their smartphones and gear, towards kids and stuff like that. It was more the Wallace days of the interwebs.
I've noticed that it's not going back that way.
Yeah.
A lot of the alt tech is like when they say alt tech, basically alt tech just means internet back to normal. Sort of shoddy looking pages with a bunch of gore and conspiracy videos. Like that's where the internet belongs.
Yeah, I remember the old days of all the shitty like GeoCities web pages and shit.
Yeah.
And the Angel Fire websites with like the little animated gifs everywhere falling over the place. Yeah. So anyway, so who here? You ready to go to Syria and join the SAA with me? I'm becoming more of a fan of Bashar.
Assad's the shit, man.
Speaking of which, by the way,
Can't
if
Mossad the Assad.
yeah, you can Mossad the Assad. Speaking of which, by the way, next week, listeners, if everything goes well, we will have a former Syrian Arab Army soldier on the podcast to talk about Syria with us. I was trying to get him on today, especially after what just happened, but he was really busy today. So he had to do a bunch of stuff, so he apologized.
What the fuck does he have to do, man? Like, what do Syrians even do?
He's living in the UAE. Like, I don't know. He said he had to do some shit with his car, and then he said he needed to go to the Syrian embassy or something like that. But he's living in the UAE right now. But all of his friends and stuff that he know are still in the army. So it should be really interesting to talk about.
I always figure they just trim their beard all day and ride around on flying carpets.
Yeah, no, I think that's Egypt.
Same thing.
Yeah, well, they were the same thing for a while, when they entered when they merged their governments under the Baathism. Do you remember that? Or you heard of that?
I didn't know Syria merged with Egypt.
Yeah, they did. There's I forget what it's called. I think it was called the UAR, the United Arab Republic. It was during the time of that guy. God, he's got the mustache, slick black hair. He was really popular. Fuck me for not being able to remember.
You're talking about the Saddam, right?
No, well, come on. They all
had a mustache and slick hair.
What's the motherfucker's name? That's gonna drive me crazy.
You're talking about the dude that was in Egypt. He had all the posters of him.
Yeah, and he was like, Abdel al-Nasser or something like that. Gamal al-Nasser.
It was Nasser.
Yeah, that's when
he was popular.
Yeah,
man.
He was very popular.
That dude was super popular.
And he joined with Bashar's father to form the United Arab Republic, which temporarily merged Egypt and Syria.
He did a pretty good job, too. He held Israel off from taking Egypt's property. And that passage that goes from the south to the north right there.
Yeah,
I forget what you call it.
Sinai Canal or something.
There. I believe Egypt was able to maintain its half of it, and that comes into play later now with countries like China, because if that's the case, then what they're going to do is they're going to have a cheaper passage with Egypt on its half than they would on Israel's half.
Well, they controlled the Sinai for a while after the 73 war, the 67 war, I forget which one. But America made him give it back. So, again, what you were talking about earlier about the Greater Israel Project, you just have to point out the fact that they did occupy the whole entirety of the Sinai, which is a huge land area. It's probably almost bigger than Israel.
But I mean, Israel doesn't control the whole thing now, right?
No, they literally annexed it after this. I believe it was the 73 war. They literally annexed the entirety of the Sinai Peninsula. Like, they were up on Cairo's, doorstep. And America made him give it back because, if you piss off the Arabs so much that they're going to keep fighting you just for taking Israel, you start conquering territories, you're really going to fucking, rile up everybody. But yeah, it's unfortunately, Gamal al-Nasser, his war with Israel got extremely fucked. I love watching documentaries about that.
At this point, then, does the entirety of that passage belong to Israel, or is it split between them and Egypt? For some reason, I thought Egypt has part of it.
No, they don't control the Sinai. Egypt controls the Sinai, so they don't control anything of it. Israel.
So they don't control it at all.
No, not at all. Israel has
all right.
They just barely, it's like kind of shaped like a knife. It's just barely the tip of the bottom of Israel touches a port. I forgot the name, in the Gulf. So they have one port to the south, but the Sinai Canal or whatever it's called is controlled by Egypt.
Oh, okay. For some reason I thought that they had like more rights in the area. In that case, that's going to make it really easy for Axis countries to get shipping through, because their whole plan is, of course, to route things from if they build the railroad from China to Europe, but at any rate from Greece all the way down.
The new Silk Road is what you're talking about?
Yeah, and then from Greece, that's going to be a port that China's going to use a lot. And this makes sense, you know, like everybody I know from China, and I know a lot of people, has a pretty strong opinion on Egypt, and they love Egypt.
Interesting. Maybe that's why that it was so important for us to go in there and try to fuck with whatever was happening during the color revolutions and lock it down with another military dictator.
Yeah, I have friends, or I have pictures from my friend that would visit Egypt. She actually wrote my name in the sand and sent me a big old picture of it.
Aww.
It was in front of one of the pyramids. It was pretty cool.
That's cool. So that's like a what do they call it? The fan sign, but like that's like a pretty hardcore fan sign. Anyway, so on the topics at hand, we're definitely going to get to Trump and Syria and what just happened yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't wake up to being immersed in nuclear hellfire, so that sucks. But
I tell people it never happened.
It's never gonna happen. It's
World War III. It's like, no, it's not.
It's never gonna happen. It's never happening. God damn it! I want it to happen.
This is just the 2017 April Fool's attack on Syria all over again.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, it definitely can't go without mentioning what just happened yesterday, because there's a lot of fears that we're gonna get entangled in something a lot bigger, and I'm sure I was one of them that was like thinking, well, nobody knows what the fuck is about to happen, and
it's funny listening to people, man. You listen to Alex Jones, right?
Oh god, that clip of him is going around like crazy, where he's like screaming like "fuck everyone, fuck this shit." He's great.
Like, just fuck my career up.
Just fuck my shit up, man.
He was saying how everyone in America is stupid. Alex Jones said he wanted to leave America.
Damn.
He said #fuck Trump. Like, I don't know how he comes back from that one.
Trump?
No, Alex Jones. Like, Alex Jones insulted his own audience. He insulted basically everybody. He said, you know, that Trump is a traitor, evil, blah, blah, blah. And just like, it's just... I don't think that he can come back from that so easily, because before he said he had doubts. Now he's pretty much anti-Trump, and all because of this like Syria thing.
Stupid little fucking spitball that we fired over there.
It might have been too early, I think, for AJ to do that.
Yeah, well, I think everybody was pissed off, and I think at one point he said that he felt that he was under. They were like talking. They're like saying that he was being mind controlled. Like MK Ultra style. Like, all right, well, you're really having to stretch your mind to be able to accept what, you know, the cognitive dissonance of people on the right and the left of what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. I think what they don't understand is that if he does nothing, then what ends up happening is you have an entire global apparatus coming after him while he's trying to do his own agenda here. He could do nothing and then create more problems, or he could, you know, pretend to do something and then say that he did something and then, you know, forget about it for another year.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of theories about that. I'm thinking of whether we should just go on with Trump and Syria, or there's a couple other things regarding like fringe tier stuff that I'd like to talk about. Let's
do the fringe stuff, man. That's what everybody else.
All right, let's start with the fringe stuff, and then we'll get into Syria and shit. Actually, I don't know. I have a friend who's going to be wanting to come on in about a half an hour, and he's kind of fringy.
All right, we'll wait for him then.
Well, yeah. Why don't we just do Syria, and then when my friend comes on, then we can talk about some of the fringe tier stuff. So, all right. So strange. Let's look at the timeline of events. We have this strange attack on the T4 base or whatever it was, which my Syrian friend here that's supposed to come on the show, the Syrian Arab Army guy, he sent me a link to something in Arabic, which said that the base, that the mysterious attack, you know, that came from the direction of Lebanon, basically Israel, of course. They didn't announce it at the time, which is really sketchy. Like they were trying to get us like sucked into something by having people think that America did it. And I even read somewhere that that there were reports of Russians like going to respond like to the attack and hit us in the Mediterranean. And that's why we released that statement like right away from the DOD that said that it wasn't us behind that attack. So it's like, oh, okay, we know who it is. We know who it is here. So you know, this guy sent me a link to something that said that airbase was used to operate drones to keep pushing ISIS further into the east and take care of them. And as soon as like I think it was a day or two before that attack, because I try to keep watching on the Syrian live map thing.
Yeah.
And like the day or two before the attack, there was a lot of push from ISIS towards Palmyra, which is near the area of where the base was hit. If you haven't been paying attention, like the southern eastern part of Syria is like there's like a big road that goes across the desert, and it goes from like Palmyra to Deir ez-Zor. And so that's been contested for like the last year or two. And the SAA finally like pushed all the way out into Deir ez-Zor. The Kurds took back Raqqa, so ISIS has been retreating, and they basically operate only like a small corner in the southeast and a small part of Damascus, tiny little pockets. And so the attack on that airbase, he said was UAVs or drones that were operating to keep tabs on ISIS and to fuck them.
We need an echo sound when you say ISIS.
Yeah, really. ISIS, the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. You ever see that little conspiracy meme?
Well, I mean, it's interesting how ISIS has never attacked Israel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they always have our hardware.
It's very strange.
It's a coincidence.
It's a coincidence. But yeah, no, there was a letter written to a letter that I saw that was written from one of our intelligence agencies to the Mossad, and it's like, how would you abbreviate your organization in English? And they basically said it would be ISIS, or the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. So not to go too far with the tinfoil stuff, but it's kind of weird that a bunch of Wahhabi Arabs would name themselves after an Egyptian god, you know. I mean, of course, they're called Daesh in Arabic, so maybe that's just the media giving them that designation. Anyway, so before this all happened, you know, we all saw the rhetoric being ramped up, and the saber rattling happening between Trump and Russia and all this. And then there's the strange, mysterious Israeli strike on this base, and then now ISIS is pushing forward. And by the way, after last night, ISIS also pushed forward in their Damascus-controlled zone. Probably didn't amount to much because apparently the strike didn't do anything. Yeah, I mean, it's just all real strange that Trump was signaling about pulling out of Syria a couple days before that, if you remember. And then all of a sudden a mysterious chemical attack, which, by the way, I have something for our viewers to watch here on the screen about that. Sorry about rape, guys. Yeah, so check this. There's a video on the screen here. If you want to look at the link, I can see it. Are you looking at it? So that's like all those times when you play that game as a kid where you just pretend to being a victim of a chemical attack. All those times you did that when you were a kid.
I like the video where the guy gets out of the van and then runs in to help the chemical victims. And he runs through the chlorine gas, no problem. Lifts people up while breathing in the chlorine gas, no problem. And then, brings them into his van and then drives away. That guy's a hero.
Yeah.
That must have really hurt.
I know. Fuck. You just gotta exhale, just like you're in the void of outer space. You just exhale and walk through the gas. Just take it.
It's like that guy on K. As long as you have a gas mask on or you don't breathe, the chlorine gas won't hurt you.
That was hilarious. Oh my god. I wonder if that guy ever died or not. He definitely needed to have some serious surgery. He would have fucked hard.
Yeah, his arm looked all bubbly.
Yeah, that was disgusting. So there was a journalist who was speaking at some kind of UN event, because I remember the little background thing had the UN logos on it. And the journalist was saying that the white hats, the white helmets, and these people that you're talking about, and the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights or something like this, both funded out of England, by the way, which kind of, you remember how we were talking about the whole Illumination kind of Masonic intelligence agencies, cabal kind of originated out of England, and definitely the push towards globalism, whatever you want to call it, or making the world into a more universalist place has been the British Empire for the longest time.
It makes sense that they're doing this because they kind of want to create a history, a history with a narrative that we're coming in to save the third world and assimilate them into the West and save them from their despotic rulers.
Yeah.
It all comes back to trying to create a fake history so that people can learn from that. In some cases, also, they have the original sin construct. We have the slavery, you have white power, and just they have a lot of original sins. And it's a very religious sort of interpretation of the world. But I think the mistake they're making is that it's a lot harder to write history with the internet around.
I was just gonna say, I think that that the internet just totally threw a cog in the wrenches. If you can control government education, if you can control the media, then you have a couple people on the fringe, like you did in the 70s and 80s, who would, get their hands on some books or something, and think of it as an interesting kind of side hobby to do research about these kind of things. But when you have it exploding all over the internet and you can't control information anymore, and that's what really I think is setting the precedent for what's going to be the next. We always like to talk about transhumanism and all this. The kind of next turning of the wheel of human evolution. I think that the explosion of the internet and the freeing up of communication, which has always preceded intellectual development, freeing up of communication, freeing up of ideas, is basically like you know, of like a blockchain except for control of people's minds. You know what I mean? It lets people like validate one another's ideas through actual objective evidence and their own opinions, rather than just being having manufactured ideas that are, you know, mass produced. So anyway, this journalist was saying that the white hats or the white helmets, whatever, I'm sure you guys know, listeners know who those guys are. They're a group in Syria, which the West has tried to portray as being like these like brave freedom fighters that just kind of rose up organically and saved people from the evil barrel bombs and the chemical attacks and whatnot. But
it's just like a movie.
Exactly. Well, you know, they're really good at making movies. There's lots of pictures and videos on the internet of them like faking scenes of kids. And the journalist even mentioned this. She said that the white helmets have, you know, issued news articles and things like this where the same child, for instance, she gave the example of a girl named Aya, was appearing every month. Like the same kid would appear in the same pictures, you know, being taken by rebels. So they're on the ground. They're funded by I believe it was either a gentleman or a group in the UK. That's how they were started. And they basically, you know, help to form the narrative on the ground that Assad is this evil dictator and everyone hates him. This is what I really wanted to talk about the SAA guy about, is like how many people genuinely like disliked him at the beginning of the Arab Spring. Because I know now that they all love him, you know, because look at what they had to face. They had to face all these like psycho fucking jihadis, or, you know, a secular, modern, albeit authoritarian ruler, but someone who is able to secure his country and from this fucking insanity that's going on all around them. Israel on the one border, and, you know, ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda on the other. So I really think that the Syrian people,
I don't think they hated him at all.
Yeah, I want to talk to him about how what the situation was like at the beginning.
It's probably gonna end up just like Gaddafi. Nobody hated him. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
he
my
was
guess.
very, very prosperous. Yeah, Libya was very prosperous. I think it was the most prosperous country in Africa. Before we came, we saw he died, like Hillary said, fucking bitch. Okay, so anyway, also the journalist said that what was it she said? That there were guns on the ground from the beginning, and that this is basically, it's not a war between Bashar and his people. It's a war between Bashar and a bunch of foreign mercenaries. So it's really ridiculous, and the narrative is kind of breaking down. You even have, like, you know, when remember when Trump made his announcement at 6 o'clock, just when actually that's when the attack started at 6 o'clock, just when Tucker Carlson was going off of Fox News. You know, he goes from 5 to 6 my time anyway, Pacific time, which would be like 8 to 9 Eastern time. And he was, you know, Tucker Carlson, like he got his couple words in right when it started, because he knew that he got the information that Trump had ordered the strikes, and he was extremely against it. And it was kind of bizarre. Actually, it was incredibly bizarre to watch Fox News being incredibly anti-interventionist and being like, Trump, what are you doing? Like, what dimension am I in? You know what I mean?
I wonder how they're all going to react now that it's all passed and, you know, basically nothing happened.
Well, I know Drudge report was just full of anti-interventionist and then kind of like, you know, he posted a bunch of stories that say like Trump's supporters are not in favor of this whatsoever. Let me just pull up Drudge report real quick. All of his top. I usually check Drudge for headlines, because he's pretty good for it. He's changed the headlines, but let's see. It was pretty not anti-Trump, but all the shit on the top was anti what he just did, and like saying he's alienating the base. So you even have conservatives who are against this. I think the only group that would be for this are the retarded fucking boomer section of the right, which they all need to be gassed anyway, you know.
There's that, and of course there's the actual left. I think that they're probably all for attacking.
The actual left? You mean like the what do you mean?
Well, I mean, we don't really have a traditional left. I mean, like Hillary voters, they're probably all for attacking Syria.
The Hillary voters are all fucked up right now because their whole narrative is that Trump is being controlled by Putin.
And here he is directly embarrassing Putin on the global stage.
It was hilarious reading through. I was reading through some of the tweets. I think you saw me post some of them in Outer Heaven. Let me read one of these tweets here. Actually, you know what? I'll even put it on the screen for our viewers. Let me find it real quick here. This is from, I think this was right when Trump ordered the attacks. Let's pull up this tweet from this gentleman right here.
Embarrasses Russia. I don't care one way or the other about Russia. What I don't like is us going to war in Syria, if that happens. But I don't think it's happening. I think Trump is just sort of shrugging his shoulder, and what that looks like is him shooting non-targets. I think people are miscalculating the move, because he's talking about more intervention if this was another typical neocon move.
Right.
Exactly. The next thing is invasion after we do this. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's remember the fucking constant drumbeat before Trump took office. We have to remove Assad. We have to remove Assad. We have to remove Assad. They wouldn't let that go. They wouldn't let that go. Yeah, now here we are is like, okay, no. And Mattis, I think that's what we did. By the way, they said that they didn't tell anybody what they were going to do, which is tactical or strategic. Actually, not tactical, strategic. We attacked a chemical site, a chemical research site. They attacked a few air bases. There were rumors that some Hezbollah positions were being hit. And by the way, there's rumors right now that Hezbollah positions are being hit by Israel, which wouldn't surprise me. In my opinion, they're the main reason why we want Assad to be toppled. But he's very concise, Trump and Mattis, and I don't think he would have done a 180 so quickly. All these people getting blackpilled and stuff about it. Yeah, I don't think he would have done a 180 so quickly from what he said right before the supposed chemical attack that we were pulling out of Syria. Which, of course, I think that those statements are what provoked this whole thing. And so you have all this pressure and sexual tension, between us and Russia building up over what's going to happen in Syria. Trump goes, oh, you know what? I'm pulling out. And then, chemical attack. And Trump can't look like a nutcase and say, by the way, that's just a false flag. By the way, the independent observers are supposed to come the next day and observe that. And so I think somebody was on Twitter who said that Trump could have left himself an out by letting the observers go there and then say, look, there was no chemical attack. And then just say, oh, look, they're idiots. This is fake news. But I think that might have risked the leaving things in control of too much of the media. And I think Trump did want to show Putin that he wasn't going to be fucked with, because that's the only language that a strong man like Putin understands, So maybe they damn well knew that. And even when Mattis was telling the media, yeah, we have concrete evidence, we knew that it was Assad that did it. I sensed that he could have possibly been bullshitting. So maybe they just used that and they said, oh, okay, well, you want to keep harping on about this chemical attack shit, fine. We're going to do a surgical strike on basically nothing. Like I said, chemical research thing, and word is that the soldiers were alerted and left the facilities. I think I saw somewhere that there was only 3 casualties. So
yeah, it's very, very low.
Yeah, so it was just a big symbolic, exercise and show of force to get Putin to uh, to make Putin see that we mean business. I don't think anybody really benefits from having.
But yeah, a lot of people are saying that a portion of the motive was to make Putin blink.
Yeah, exactly. Just like he did with Kim Jong-un.
Yep.
He did the exact same thing. Put all those carrier strike groups in North Korea. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's World War III. And now they're having talks. Kim Jong-un and Trump are going to have talks on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which is what we wanted.
Yep.
So this signals a kind of Trumpian style diplomacy, which is certainly better than what the neocons have done. It's almost like a neoconservatism, which doesn't. Well,
what it is it's the madman tactic with no follow-up. Now, if you want to know something funny about that, so what's his name? Henry Kissinger. He had a strategy called the madman tactic.
Yeah.
I was listening to Rush Limbaugh talk about this.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a not counter, but a follow-up to MAD, to mutual assured destruction. But there's also the madman strategy, which comes with it. So basically, everybody has nukes. So what you do is you start attacking proxy allies of different nations as a way to undermine them. So for the case of Russia, that would be Iran and Syria. So it's funny because when you think about it, on poll they call, or in PTG anyway, they were calling Trump the absolute madman. And the name of the strategy that he's using is the madman strategy.
Yeah, and you got Mad Dog Mattis.
Yeah, and the madman strategy would be just like this. He's not destroying Syria. What he's doing is humiliating Russia in front of their ally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if this is a real neo-Cohen establishment, and of course there's lots of holdovers, speaking of which, the appointment of fucking Tom Bolton of all people, but he wanted a strong man on his side, and he's definitely got strong men around him and in the military. So you don't want to lose face in the world in terms of American power and our ability to God, it's when you get to this type of thinking, it's like a lot of people, of course he's America first, but I think that it's you can't just like back down from everything and let other countries, especially ones that we've provoked into the position that we've gotten in, keep antagonizing one another. Like, for instance, this whole thing is basically Saudi and Israel versus Iran. And we had those intricate ties and reasons why they were allied with these people. And so we have to kind of, it's like the kids are fighting and the adult in the room has to come on. And like, so you got Putin and Trump out there. And they're like, okay, so how are we going to handle this situation so we don't end up fucking destroying the Middle East? So Iran, the disastrous policies in Iraq led to Iran basically taking over Iraq. The Shia militias, which fought off ISIS, were, a lot of them were controlled by the IRGS, Iranian Revolutionary Guards, and they fought off ISIS. And then you have them working in Syria. So the kind of Sunni Al-Qaeda and American encirclement of Iran, or which you just called Zionist kind of encirclement of Iran, had them pushed back. So I think everything that's playing out right now, like Syria and that area, is of course, like you said, a proxy war between the Shias, our Muslims and their Muslims, right? Our source of gas revenue and their source of gas revenue. Anything that you'd like to add with why that proxy war is happening?
Well, this particular proxy war has a lot to do with the pipeline. There's two different reasons that I've seen that are compelling. First off, there's Colin Powell's project for a new American century.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first and obvious one, of course. Then there is the Greater Israel Project, which is to expand the borders of Israel into Syria and then, like you said, split with Turkey. That's the other part. So there's a sort of a twofold reason for being there. And you can tell that what's kind of happening, because Trump on one hand kind of does nothing, you know, he shoots nothing and then nothing happens. But what's Israel doing right now? You know, they're attacking Iran in little skirmish type things. So the aggro party is, of course, Israel here. And the documents, both PNAC and the Greater Israel Project, both pretty much tell you what the goal is here. On one hand, the neocons that are for the oil industry want to get the pipeline from Qatar into Turkey, whereas Putin wants to run a pipeline from Iran through Syria under the sea and then into Europe. So there's a sort of a juncture there. And I think those are the two biggest reasons.
Right. So by trying to spoil that pipeline thing, we're kind of hitting Russia and Iran economically in a way which is going to hurt them.
Exactly. And Iran, taking them out is also part of the Greater Israel Project and part of the Seven Nation Plan. It's a lot harder to take out Iran, though, because they're bigger.
Yeah. And
they don't just have Russia there. They also have China there as well.
Yeah, that's where World War III becomes a thing. Yeah, we all remember John McCain and that motherfucker that needs to die already from his fucking brain tumor.
Another thing to remember is that we've lost to Chinese and Russian pilots before.
Really?
People forget about that. Yeah, during the Vietnam and Korean Wars.
War, yeah, right.
The commies in those countries were backed up by reinforcements both from China and Russia. At one point in the Vietnam War, they reported that when flying close to enemy aircraft, they saw, you know, Caucasian-looking pilots, and they said, "Who's flying these planes?" And then, you know, they said it's the Russians.
Obviously, yeah. No, I know that was going on in the Korean War. Yeah. Well, I don't really. I'm not afraid of American air superiority with the F-22.
That's what I meant, the Korean War, because the peninsula's right there.
Well, you're right that in the Vietnamese War there were actually. I remember reading an anecdote about a pilot.
Yeah, there were Chinese-speaking soldiers that were intermingling among the Viet Cong.
Oh, of course that. But I remember reading an anecdote about a Russian anti-aircraft operator who locked on to an American fighter pilot, and he was talking about it, and he said there was no way that it was a Vietnamese conscript. It had to have been someone who's seriously trained in operating the equipment by the way that he was able to lock onto him. But,
oh, yeah. Russia's always been sort of a reinforcement party. They've always been kind of a military country. That's why the rules for them are different. You know, even the conservatives that you hear that, you know, cover the news a lot, like Rush, even they kind of get it wrong. They underestimate Russia. You know, they think that the conventional rules of a global market, not including Russia, is somehow going to be, you know, their undoing. But what they forget is that Russia hasn't really participated much, like, ever since we've had the global market. Russia has been kind of off in crazy land, just like China was up until Mao died. You know, Russia, they're not as crazy as North Korea, but they're more than willing to be shut off from the global market and just produce tanks. They're fine doing that.
Yeah.
They're riding on a commodity market, and it's not sustainable until you look at China. So then what you find out is that Russia can actually gain money through China because the RMB now can trade oil futures.
So this is what's happening. It's like a breakdown of the unipolar world, and that's flies in the face of what PNAC was all about. And they're trying to restore American hegemony, which is, by the way, really fucking expensive. And I'd rather not be taxed out the ass to go fucking wag our country's dick at fucking Syria.
I think it's Blump's fault.
It's all Blump. But so let's talk for a second about the Project for a New American Century.
Colin Powell.
Yeah, I'm actually look up the thing. We all have that quote for where they said they needed a new Pearl Harbor incident to be able to
Get us into the Middle East.
Get us into the Middle East, which is a logistical way to control the center of the world. Keep the petrodollar afloat. Prevent major crisis in America if we lose the petrodollar, because then all we have is debt.
Well, that's the problem. Is China is about to counter our petrodollar with the petro RMB, and their next door neighbor produces oil, like as a central industry.
I'm less worried about China because China thrives on our consumer markets. So I mean, they're so interwoven with our economy that I don't see there being any real problem with
not just our market though. I mean, they're interwoven with markets all over the world.
Well, our market's the only one that really matters when it comes to consumerism.
The BRIC plan wants to change that by creating consumers in poor countries, where the World Bank likes to cut loans that are unpayable so that they basically keep countries poor and as sort of like a slumlording tactic. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank does the opposite. They try to pull countries out of poverty. They build them these like overnight cities, and then they try to turn them into, potential markets.
Well,
so that's one thing that China does. And my point is that that's one part of the market is their general commodities and the electronics and the cars and just like all the stuff, the cheap labor stuff. There's something else though. That's soon to be oil, because now the Chinese RMB is about to become an oil future. So you talk petrodollar. So there's petrodollar, and then there's also going to be the petrol RMB.
What you said is interesting, and it makes me think about one of the fringe tier topics which we've been discussing. The great work, quote unquote, or how that these elites view that they're creating a new world order. Let me just dip into real quick because I want to keep talking about PNAC and waiting for my friend to get done here. He's got a couple kids, so he's trying to wait until the house quiets down. Here's what you remember we were talking about the book last week, The Cloud Upon the Sanctuary, which had informed a lot of these occult fraternities.
Yeah.
So one of them, of course, being Aleister Crowley. So
always comes back to Crowley.
Maybe he was right. He was the fucking beast. Anyway, here's what we think about here's what's called the Great Work. Eliphas Levi discussed the meaning of the Great Work, and Eliphas Levi was one of the inspirations for the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which again influenced Crowley, who in turn influenced all the occultists who came after him in the 20th century. Quote unquote, furthermore, there exists in nature a force which is immeasurably more powerful than steam, and by means of which a single man, who knows how to adapt and direct it, might upset and alter the face of the world. This force was known to the ancients. It consists in a universal agent having equilibrium for its spiritual law, while its direction is concerned immediately with the great arcanum of transcendental magic. This agent is precisely that which the adepts of the Middle Ages denominated the first matter of the Great Work. The Gnostics represented it as the fiery body of the Holy Spirit. It was the object of adoration in the secret rites of the Sabbath in the temple, under the hieroglyphic figure of Baphomet, or the androgyne of Mendes. So this is Crowley in his famous book Magic Without Tears. This is my best, and this is what I wanted to bring up, and was my I think it's the best way to describe what they're doing, both in terms of like alchemy and their like spirit cooking type stuff. but also what they're doing with the world in terms of bringing it into a one world order. He says, the great work is the uniting of opposites. And just that statement in itself, the great work is the uniting of opposites, can have so many layers of meaning when you talk about occultism or hermeticism or alchemy or all the things which I just mentioned. It may mean the uniting of the soul with God, of the microcosm with the macrocosm, or the female with the male, or of the ego with the non-ego. So, what you said, what made me think about that was the thing about BRICS. Maybe what we're seeing, maybe they're all laughing behind the curtains. You know, like Putin had that great meeting with Trump, which was supposed to last for an hour. It lasted 3 hours.
Yeah, I've talked about that with a couple of people. There's definitely a potential there. The reason is because Russia would like to gain more. They'd like to have more money, become more powerful, so that they're not like the underdog to China anymore. You know, what if something plays out to where they basically trade in Assad for somehow having sanctions released from them so that they can start to compete with China? Because right now, what America's doing is allowing China to run the show in the Axis. And China might turn out to be a lot more aggressive than Russia in the end.
Well, again, what you said about BRICS and creating emerging markets, and even the kind of way that America's heading, it makes me think about what Crowley said about the great work of uniting opposites. Maybe the whole BRICS thing, the whole Axis versus Allies thing, maybe that's just a way, metaphorically, the way that these people who are, if they were occult-minded and were in power, would interpret it as a way to kind of bring out the unconscious like dualities that are prevalent in the cultures and the countries and the kind of relationships between them, like the third world versus the first world. You kind of bring them out and have them be expressed in order to reach a synthesis, like the whole Hegelian dialectic of what is it? No?
Yeah, we're definitely in uncharted waters here.
Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Yeah. So maybe it is all a show. Maybe it's just a big grand show. Or maybe, like as they believe, there are higher orders on some other planets or another dimension which are guiding them. That's definitely what the Masons genuinely believe. It's in their books. I was going to bring up an Alice Bailey book. She was involved in she's involved in theosophy, and which of course is intimately tied into Masonry.
Yep.
And she has a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy, which talks about she writes the kind of what the Masons believe is like these archons, or these like kind of ascended masters, like the New Agers call them, that kind of guide humanity. She writes a lot about the way that this is influencing politics. So she says here, let me just read this here, which by the way comes from January 1939. So very interesting time to be having this type of ideas coming out. She says, another angle from which the world situation can be viewed with profit is to look for the hidden source of the outer turmoil. This is seldom what men think it is, for the source lies in the realm of great energies and forces. As I explained elsewhere, The Destiny of Nations, page 3 to 47, there are three great streams of energy working powerfully within the world at this time, and two others are also struggling for expression, making the five that together will determine the trend of world affairs. To repeat briefly, and by the way, this is Alice Bailey. I have a bunch of her books. They're really interesting stuff. I was really into her for a while. The first and the foremost of these powerful forces is pouring into the world from Shambhala, at the planetary center from where the will of God is known. Only twice in our planetary history has this Shambhala energy made its presence felt directly. The first time when the great human crisis occurred at the individualization of man in ancient Lemuria. The second time in Atlantean days in the great struggle between the Lords of Light and the Lords of Material Form, also called the Dark Forces. Today, this force streams out from the Holy Center. It embodies the will aspect of the present world crisis, and its two subsidiary effects or qualities are A, the destruction of that which is undesirable and hindering in present world forms in government, religion, and society. B, the synthesizing force which binds together that which has been hitherto separated. So just to commentate on that a little bit, you know, what we've kind of said about has been the modus operandi of the Masons for a long time has been to destroy old structures and to lead humanity towards this plan that they have for, you know, back in the day they called it the New Atlantis when referring to America. The Masons were, you know, that's why you can't be a Mason in the Catholic Church, because they wanted to undermine the authority of the Catholic Church in their kind of modus operandi of destroying old structures, and B, the synthesizing them together, what has been hitherto separated. So the rest of the stuff that she's talking about is kind of like a theosophical jargon, and I'm not going to get into that. You can check out Alice Bailey if this is interesting to you guys. Her group is called Lucius Trust. You can see her books. By the way, Lucius, as in, of course, Lucifer. LUCIStrust.org. You can check out her books. It's pretty interesting. I recommend it just to see what the what these people are kind of you know, thinking.
I think one of the things that comes up with those sorts of topics is that you have leaders that don't really follow the esoterics. So people that do follow the esoterics almost speak another language that they're not really picking up on.
Yeah, that
can actually be a big weakness, because if there is secret societies that have cues with one another and a general understanding of esoterics, whatever that stems from, then they'll be speaking to each other in front of people that don't know it, and then they'll just won't really catch on. You know, there can be all of these sort of sub-dialogues occurring.
And there is, for sure. Have you ever seen this very strange video from, I believe it was the International Monetary Foundation? The International, let me see, I'm trying to find it, guys, give me a second. International Monetary Foundation. She was talking about numerology.
Yeah, I think I heard something about that.
Right. It was very strange. The director of the International Monetary Foundation, Christine Lagarde, you can see the video on YouTube. Let me just play a little bit of it, because here's what we're talking about in terms of these people and what they're into. All right, I'm gonna turn the volume up real quick so we can play it.
You can tell I do as I'm told.
Again, this is at the National Press Club in America, which has been tied to these groups. By the way, their symbol is the owl. It says in Bohemian Grove, the Owl of Bohemia. This is Christine Lagarde, the director of the International Monetary Fund.
I thought I had to stand up at the time when my immediate predecessor would sit down, and clearly I failed. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me with you. I would like to thank the National Press Club, and especially President Angela Grilling-Keane, for not only inviting me to this prestigious venue, but essentially presenting the outline of what I want to talk to you about now. So it's as if we had prepared that together, which we have not. Now, let me first of all, of course, begin by wishing you all a Happy New Year. I guess it's still time to do that, given that we are just exactly halfway through between our Western New Year and the Lunar New Year, which will loom in a few weeks' time. I think it's also appropriate to wish ourselves a Happy New Year, given what I would like to talk to you about, which has to do with the global economy and what we should expect for 2014. Now I'm going to test you numerology skills by asking you to think about the magic 7. Okay?
Like for real?
Most of you will know that 7 is quite a number in all sorts of themes, religions, and I'm sure that you can compress numbers as well. All right, I'm just giving you 2014, you drop the 0, 14, 2 times 7. Okay, that's just by way of example, and we're going to carry on.
What she just said, 2014, in terms of Kabbalah and Masonic style numerology, 2014 would equal the number 7 because you have 2 plus 4 plus 1.
So, if we think about 2014, all right, I'm just giving you 2014, you drop the 0, 14, 2 times 7.
It's like she's trying to explain numerology to normies.
But why? But you have the director of the IMF talking at the National Press Club about this occult shit. So let me. This fucking guy keeps fucking interrupting the video with this little interpretation of what it means. I'm gonna keep playing a little bit of what she's saying here because I mean, when I first heard it, I mean, my spine tingled because it's just like. Yeah, you know, it's true. The people that are in power really are into this stuff.
That's just by way of example, and we're going to carry on. So 2014,
you know, they're chuckling in the National Press Club like it's like nothing strange that she's talking about some straight up fucking new age fucking occult tier Kabbalah shit.
Will be a milestone and hopefully a magic year in many respects. It will mark the 100th anniversary of the First World War back in 1914. It will mark the 70th anniversary, drop the 0, 7, of the Bretton Woods Conference that actually gave birth to the IMF. And it will be the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. 25th. The financial market G. It will also mark the 7th anniversary of the financial market jitters that quickly turned into the greatest global economic calamity since the Great Depression. The crisis still lingers. Yet, optimism is in the air. We've left the deep freeze behind us, and the horizon looks just a bit brighter. So my hope and my wish for 2014 is that after those 7 miserable years, weak and fragile, we have 7 strong years. Whether the G7, I don't know whether the G7 will have anything to do with it, or whether it will be the G20. I certainly hope that the IMF will have something to do with it. Or whether it will be the G20, I certainly hope that the IMF will have something to do with it.
Well, that's a hell of a little clip, eh?
Yeah, it really makes me think.
Really activates the old almonds. Like, whoa, by the way, that reminded me, we definitely have to do a show on, bring up Bretton Woods one time.
It's almost like using these words of power has a benefit, and that the elites like to use these numbers of power, not words of power. Yeah. Words of power too, of course.
That clip, yeah. Wow.
I like that topic also. Numerology is important, but also powered words are important. That's why they like political correctness, because it gives words power. You know, it takes otherwise innocuous words and then it gives them an almost like mesmerizing power. You can say a word that's become offensive and shut down speech or redirect speech, and all these other things.
Fuck's sake, my friend is almost done eating. I want him to get in on this because he knows. I met this guy like maybe like 9, 10, almost like 8, 9 years ago. I've known this guy, and
Nice.
he's been right along with me through the journey through the new age and into the alt-right, and he became a Polak around the same time I did. And so he's been kind of riding the wave of
So he's a Nazi.
well, yeah, he's an evil white supremacist. So I don't know, maybe we shouldn't have him on the show.
No platform for Nazis.
No, punch Nazis. But I'd like to have him talking about this. Hopefully he'll hop on in a second. I give him the link to the Discord. But I want to go, because what you said, just like that's something that as a Vajrayana or a Tantrika, I can unpack quite a bit.
It's a perspective thing. People that use numerology for their benefits, that use these. The thing is, there's a dissonance. People will say it's all hocus pocus, this number stuff. But at the same time, you use these numeric rules when you're doing public speaking, the rules of 3 and the rules of 5. 3 big arguments, 5 small arguments. These little psychological tricks that you do it with numbers. So it should not be that surprising that at the top level, there's a big understanding for the value of numbers.
Oh, I think our boy has joined the Discord. Okay,
He's probably
okay,
a Trump supporter. You get the feeling he is.
huh?
He's a Blumph supporter, isn't he?
Oh no, man! I think we should just all get blackpilled and jump the ship right now because of
Like Alex Jones, just
yeah,
like him.
just fuck everyone and everything, and fuck you too. Fuck my listeners. Yeah. I guess he's not in the VC. I really wanted to have him hop on this subject. God damn it. Okay. So what you said about power words and stuff, this is something which ties in a lot to the type of things that we've been talking about regarding communication, memes, the control of language, and how that affects you and affects society, how that relates to the great work in the developing of human consciousness, which is externalized as how we act and how nations act and how groups act, how cultures act, how religions act. When you study Tantra, it all comes down to the word, because your life force is seen as like air, and that's why it's represented by the letter A. What? This is air shit. Yo, this guy, he's like, I can't hear anything.
Well, that's odd.
Yeah, well, because he hasn't joined the fucking voice channel.
Is he new to Discord or something?
Yeah, he doesn't use Discord.
Oh, shit. He's not a boomer, right?
No, he's a young kid. He's younger than me.
As long as he doesn't try to give us the Reagan pill.
No, he's not gonna give me a Reagan pill. No, he's a young kid. He just doesn't. He's too busy, just doing stuff.
Busy in California?
No, he doesn't live in Cali. He lives in I think Michigan or something like that. Michigan. Am I cutting out a little bit from time to time? Because I'm seeing the green.
No, you sound fine to me.
You see the little
normal
green circle is like turning off and on. Okay, so in Tantra, and I made a big documentary about this if you guys want to go watch it. It's called Shabda Brahman on my YouTube channel, Shaktipat Tier 2. Shabda, Shabda, Brahman, Brahman, which basically is one of the names of Brahman is like kind of like a universal consciousness. It's kind of like the higher expression of your Buddha mind, or your higher expression of your consciousness is Brahman. Like it's said that the self merges into it like a drop of water into the ocean. So that level of wisdom is expressed as Shabda, which means sound. And so when I was saying about about the life force which animates the mind, is basic. There's a really strange verse in one of those tantric texts that I was reading that basically says that divisions of syllables are basically divisions of air in your mind, or in general. I can't remember the exact verse. I should have marked it because it was really profound. And so your mind is like it's dividing the emptiness, which is the intrinsic nature of your mind, into syllables to form the expression of your thoughts, which in turn are what makes up your consciousness. So your consciousness is very much tied into syllables. That's why they have, that's why in tantric Buddhism or in Mahayana Buddhism, even in any Eastern, Western, every religion, there's mantras that people repeat. There's some famous ones in Tibetan Buddhism that people know, like Om Mani Padme Hum and other mantras that you repeat, which help you to focus your mind and kind of integrate the way in which your consciousness works with the way in which the higher reality works. So when you said about controlling the narrative, read like words and communication and political correctness, that's how you mind control a person, and that's what the internet is freeing up, the means to communicate with one another in a way which is outside of the bonds of what we've been taught. And we have Julian in the podcast. Is your microphone working? Give me a sound check. Beep.
That was something.
Did you just honk a clown horn there?
That's what it sounded like.
Oh, I'm not hearing you. Do you have a microphone? It's strange. His green light's on, but I can't hear anything.
He probably needs to go into his settings.
Yeah, check go into your set.
He's
another. Check out. Go into app settings and then go to user settings at the bottom. It's the little like wheel thing. Oh, he's in chipmunk mode. How do you fix chipmunk mode again?
I have no clue.
I think you just need to try to.
I have no clue how to fix chipmunk mode.
Yeah, it happened to me before. Right now we're hearing you as a chipmunk, right, Mound? Maybe try to disconnect.
I mean, he did say he was a kid, right?
Try to.
I mean, how young is this guy?
Try to disconnect and reconnect, bro. You're in chipmunk mode right now, or mess with your user settings.
He's leading the 8-year-old alt-right.
No, you just muted yourself and unmuted yourself. Try to disconnect and then reconnect. The button at the bottom that has the phone. Let's see if we can. Let's see if we. Hello? What? Oh man.
We got a Nazi chipmunk here.
Okay. I'm not sure if you're on a phone or on a computer, but you he might just have to like try to turn it off and turn it on again, you know?
Yeah, restarting Discord might do it. That shit was funny.
Anyway, I'd love to have him on so we could talk about these kind of things. So,
I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out. He just hasn't done Discord a lot.
It's interesting to hear about a younger person that doesn't know Discord or really how to operate these things.
Yeah, but he's just been working and taking care of his kids. So when you get doing that, I mean, I guess he's a kind of normie, but not really. I mean, like I said, he went on 4chan and pulled.
He's an old. He's a normie plus.
Normie plus, yeah. Not Reddit tier, but normie plus.
Reddit aren't exactly normies. Reddit are basically balls out civic nationalists that don't like to admit it.
Yeah, there's kind of retarded. All right, did you restart Discord?
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, he's got a man voice now.
What's up, Julian? I haven't talked to you for a while.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Mandala. All right, so if you go into talking points, you can see the stuff that we've been talking about. I really wish that you were here fucking like 20 minutes ago when we started to go off on the esoteric side of things. Well, just a quick rundown on what we've been talking about. We've been saying
We were just talking about how Blumf is orange and has small hands.
Yeah, basically. We were talking about the Syria thing and how that relates to this confrontation between Axis and allies, quote unquote, relates to the Project for New American Century, and how our geopolitical strategy is operating, and then how that relates to how that Masons and these kind of occult groups see themselves in relation to what they're doing and their plans for humanity. Have you ever read any of the theosophical stuff about how that they believe like the ascended masters are kind of like orchestrating things on the earth?
Somewhat. A while ago. Remember that hidden hand shit about the Illuminati and you know, their purpose to kind of weed out the people, because there's so much information out there to kind of, you know, get out
You don't
all
sound
together
French. You
and
don't sound
have
French
a life
anymore.
that's not affected by all this fucking jury shit. All the information is out there.
Whoa. Excuse me, but okay, just checking, because for a second I thought that was an anti-Semitic slur.
Yeah,
of some kind.
you trying to
Thing,
anti-Semite on me?
Like I heard it was an accusation there that certain people that are normal conservatives, just like the Mexicans are.
Oh my god. So, you know, that actually ties into what we were saying, because when we started to talk about how that this kind of vying for power versus the BRICS countries, or this kind of move towards uniting polarities. And again, I'll read you the quote from Crowley that I love about what the great work means in his Magic Without Tears. He said, "The great work is the uniting of opposites. It may mean the uniting of the soul with God, or of the microcosm with the macrocosm, or of the female with the male, or the ego with the non-ego." So in a Luciferian sense, what you brought up about the hidden hand stuff, by the way, he's referring to an article that was on my website like fucking ages ago, about how that this Luciferian type thing was like it's drawing out the issues that need to be drawn out in order to unite the polarities and create this, you know, what the person we were just listening to, the IMF director, who was talking about a new dawn after this freezing of relationships.
Dawn. What if it's a golden dawn?
Ironic, huh? Well, that's what she said. So, okay, so we need to hop back on topic here. Kind of.
I talked about the union of opposites. I'm trying to find it again. Somebody posted a picture on Facebook about how shit ton of supposedly female superstars are actually trying to do is warp men's sense of attraction, or what they find attractive in female, in a way to kind of unite the opposites or some shit like that. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the same thing they tried in Brazil.
What?
They actually did that. They had a pretty strong effort to try to get people to race mix there as much as they could. Like, we're not talking about the colonization period, but like in recent years, that's been a big thing.
How do you race mix in Brazil? They're all like different races.
Well, they want.
Isn't it by
Well,
definition?
sort of. I mean, the Japanese are not really mixing outward, and some of the Danish colonies and stuff are not really the German colonies. They're trying. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend who was from southern Brazil who, again, insists that these people down there near Argentina are pretty white, and he showed me his 23andMe, and he was like 90-something% Europid.
You should have rejected it at face value. Never accept that from a Brazilian. It's way more fun when you don't accept it.
It was funny though. So what were you?
Just makes you think so much. There's so many conspiracy theories online, and so many of them are just fucking far out and crazy. And that's only the stuff we know.
Yeah, it's only the stuff.
And even if just 1% of that is true, that's still fucking insane. And that's only the stuff we know. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's only the stuff that we hear about, Maria Pizzagate and these kind of things, what's going on behind the scenes.
Tip of the fucking iceberg.
So, anything else with the, I think, let's see, we were talking about PNAC. PNAC, regarding our neocon strategy in the Middle East. So now my mind is all over the place. I have to try to focus on one topic. PNAC was a neoconservative think tank based in Washington, D.C., focused on United States foreign policy, and I would say that it was a kind of
you gotta have an echo. Say,
God, this whole Wikipedia article echoes like a motherfucker. But it was their ideas of how that they would reshape the world, and basically make America the leader of the world in the next century after the Cold War, when the USSR fell. PNAC's stated goal was to promote American leadership. I'm gonna echo. Yeah, there's the echo. Thanks for that. To promote American leadership. American global leadership, and that the organization stated that American leadership is both good for America and for the world, and sought to build support for a Reaganite policy of military strength and moral clarity. Of the 25 people who signed PNAC's founding statements of principles, 10 went on to serve in the administration of Baby Bush, including Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz. Observers such as Erwin Stetzel and Dave Grondin have suggested that PNAC played a key role in shaping the foreign policy of the Bush administration, particularly in building support for the Iraq War. Academics such as Inderjit Pamar, Philip Hammond, and Donald E. Abelson have said that PNAC's influence on the George W. Bush administration has been exaggerated. Bullshit. Regarding the Iraq War, there's a really interesting quote here from PNAC fellow Rural Mark Garrick. Quote unquote, "We have no choice but to reinstill in our foes and friends the fear that attaches to any great power. Only a war against Saddam Hussein will decisively restore the awe that protects American interests abroad and citizens at home."
That worked out so good.
Yeah, didn't that work out great? So what we were talking about was how that Trump is kind of exercising what IXI said that Kissinger had called kind of a madman strategy, where you're unpredictable on the global stage, and you do things like the strike in Syria yesterday in order to check the influence of check the alpha of Putin, because he didn't do a damn thing to make people know that, yeah, the United States is a very strong power and will represent our interests. And if we're gonna build our international coalition and go ham on that ass anytime that we want to. What do you think about what happened yesterday, Julian? Talking to Julian. Yeah.
I know how you're
what are your thoughts on the Syria attack yesterday?
I've not been following that enough. So freaking busy, Kids work.
Basically, Blumpy McSmallhands shot a bunch of missiles at Syria and didn't hit anything.
I'm just not caught up enough to.
I mean, he hit some targets. It's just they were like nothing. There was like 3 casualties.
We didn't watch the news last night, man. You just like fucking World War III almost cracked off.
He shot missiles and shit. I just don't know where it's gonna go. If that's what you're
Syria.
asking me.
No.
He shot some alleged so-called chemical plants, and that was sort of the purpose.
The purpose.
And yeah, even though there's really zero proof that they belonged to Assad, he was still shooting the chemical plants.
Yeah, it was a big.
Precision strikes are hitting civilian neighborhoods and shit like that.
I have the feeling that what was shot was probably some chemical, like Clorox bleach plants or something, because the casualties are so low. It sounds like the runway situation all over again.
So
make a special UN committee to find the fucking chemical weapons, and 2 years later we'll find out there's none.
Well, I mean, there's going to be a echo committee that's going to investigate and probably find that we need to destroy Syria and give it to Israel. I'm guessing that's going to be what the UN finds.
They're partly right. We should turn the whole Middle East into a glass sheet.
Yeah.
Well, not. I don't know. Not Egypt. I think what should happen to Egypt is you should just remove the invaders, and then just make Egypt great again.
Anyway,
I don't want to see Egypt get destroyed. I kind of have a soft spot for that place.
Africa out of it, Northern Africa and stuff. You know, I don't know.
I mean, for all I know, there's a really hot mummy that can come back to life there, like in the movie.
So So here's where we are.
There's going to be no hot mummies in Israel, though. I think
no hot mummy, GF.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't think they even mummify there. It's probably just going to be.
They don't even do it anymore. Fucking cucks. And it's because they've lost the science of the ancient kings, which once ruled the land. So here we are geopolitically. We're dealing with Trump is dealing with the aftermath of what the neocons have wrought. They had to have their war in Iraq to project power, and that failed miserably. And now they've gotten embroiled. Our allies have gotten embroiled in so much nonsense. When the Arab Spring started, toppling of these regimes and destabilizing them, providing fertile grounds for groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda to recruit. The neocohens have basically done everything that they could in their power to destabilize the Middle East. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, we go in, we take out Saddam. 2, we set up oil refineries. 3, question mark, for profit. You know, it's like
it's the same thing as always.
Yeah, we go in there and we try to project their power, and then we realize, oh shit, you know, it's being an imperialist state is kind of difficult when you're trying to get the people that you're bombing to somehow think that you're bringing them democracy and freedom, especially when you have differences in things like IQ and culture, which means that not every state is designed to be a replication of the West. So Trump got dropped in the middle of that, and Syria is, of course, one of the end results of the Arab Spring, which didn't go the way that we wanted it, because Assad was able to hold out against these psychos that we were backing, people fucking cutting out like hearts and like eating them and stuff. And so now I think that Trump's foreign policy is not showing weakness, but also not trying to make the same mistakes.
Showing cuckiness is the problem. It's showing cucky, like, I'm going to do what the neocons want, even if I'm dragging my feet. It's that.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck happened to draining a swamp? Now he's just doing whatever the hell the establishment is.
No, that's not true either, though. That's the weird part. Because if that were true, we'd see a repeat of Bush Jr. We'd see a repeat of Obama. We're not seeing that. Because what Obama did was...
There's no troops on the ground and shit. I don't know if it's going to escalate into anything.
Well, I mean, even there were points with Obama where there was no troops on the ground. But his drone strikes were, like, around the clock. Like, that was a constant thing. I've noticed with Trump that this is like a yearly thing. It's like an April Fool's Syrian war. Like, we attack Syria in April every year, and then we forget about Syria.
Was that already April last year?
It was like literally like
it was about the exact same time too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it fucking flies. That's crazy.
It's weird, right? Like it wasn't the same target. It was lower than Damascus, but he shot up an empty runway, and this time he shot up some chemical plants.
Yeah, but he's breaking out the same about World War III shit, and how the disavowing Trump because of that, and nothing came out of it.
No.
Well, yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
In the same place where we don't know. It's gonna probably won't.
AJ kind of got himself into a spot with all that. Alex Jones last night was talking about, fuck Trump. Man. He's betrayed us. I'm off the Trump chain. I don't want the Democrats to win, but I don't know. I want to leave America now. And, like, he just lost it, man.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that a deleted video or some shit that got dug out and posted anyways? Or
well, no, he streamed it live. It was on GloomTube. GloomTube was watching AJ because it was such a shit show.
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious. I remember that. I was watching GloomTube last night.
Really blew a fucking fuse, yeah.
You know that AJ is doing something right when he's on GloomTube.
So his policy seems to be like not to let Russian Iranian influence creep in too much, to show them that look, we're not going to just back down and not support our allies in the region, but. Then here was another thing we could talk about. The whole Mohammed bin Sultan thing, in Saudi, the new crown prince, which came as a shock, after Trump went there, or I believe it was Kushner or something. And by the way, Kushner was in Saudi during this whole Syria thing. So Saudi, I think they seem to want to reform. If you guys remember, Julian, maybe not, but if you guys remember, I think we talked about this before too. Saudi, the new crown prince, like arrested like fucking like 200 members of the royal family and had them like locked up in a hotel, and apparently it was like trying to he's projecting power there, and he's a reformer, and he wants to change the way that Saudi has been operating. So I think that Trumpism itself is trying to. They're definitely at war or having to deal with factions of the military-industrial complex and such, which have been deeply entrenched in the intelligence agencies, the media, all this stuff, the deep state, which have been entrenched and working with one another for a long time in Israel, Saudi, Turkey, America. UK, Europe, to promote this globalist agenda, and I think now you have Trump kind of like evolving to the point where he understands what's been happening, but he wants to see, he's a businessman. I think he wants to see. I don't think he wants World War III. I think he wants to see that we have peaceful relations with our neighbors, that we have security with our allies. And he's doing that in a different way. And instead of being like chaotic evil like Bush, I think he's trying to be like chaotic good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of. I get that. One other thing with Trump is he's definitely not doing the standard boomer thing. Because if he were, then we would have already been in Syria expanding Israel.
Yeah.
If he was doing the Reagan type stuff, we would already be there. So Trump's also off the beaten path from there, from the neocons. That's why I don't get with the black pillars and call Trump a neocon, because if he was, we'd be seeing a very different thing. And with how much the media wants us to fight Russia, we would absolutely be in Syria.
Yeah, no, they have short memories, apparently. I don't think they remembered, a lot of these young kids in the alt-right, I don't think they remembered what it was like growing up in early 2000s under Bush. I don't think they remember this is absolutely like almost welcome, you know.
I grew up thinking the draft was going to be next week the entire time.
Yeah, it was no fun. That's when the whole like conspiracy movement started, and I think the alt-right kind of owes some of its origins to that. Because when Bush started doing all this shit, this Patriot Act stuff, this fucking security state stuff, all the conspiracies that were
coming that's when people started really thinking on the mainstream level that there were ulterior motives to everything they were doing.
They were worried. That's when Alex Jones was really popular, and he was talking about, you know, the New World Order and the police state and such. So
I miss the old days of Alex Jones, because back in the day, that's when we had his like diamond russet, diamond in the crotch underwear commercials, and he had David Icke. Those were good times.
David Icke. Oh, God, he's still around. David Icke.
Yeah, and he does good videos. So I legitimately like his videos, even though he's crazy as shit when it comes to the reptile stuff. He's spot on pretty much everything else.
Yeah,
it's a good way of seeing things too. You can take some things and leave them, but it's true in some ways. I don't know, like kind of like the Golden Wood does with this whole kind of video game approach to life, where you got try to optimize your life in a way that there's as little negative influence from all that shit as possible. And whether you want to think that that's some certain demographic that's trying to fuck you over, if it's fucking alien overlords from another dimension, doesn't really matter at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Alex Jones name dropped Israel quite a bit yesterday during his rants.
He was pretty mad.
Yeah, he mentioned Israel quite a bit yesterday. It's interesting.
Yeah, but he didn't name the Jew. I don't think he ever will, because he's actually a boomer. So I think at the end of the day, Alex Jones would probably feel quite happy seeing his own kids go and fight for a greater Israel, die in Syria. And as long as the Rothschilds echo, 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 Star of David flag. I mean, let's be frank. That star, the quote Star of David, used to be red, and it's a Rothschild family symbol. So if the Rothschild flag painted blue was in Syria, I think that he would be okay with it.
With naming them?
Well, yeah, and that's another thing, man. Like the Star of David shit. Like that's another reason I think people should research esoterics, and especially the old families, because that symbol, other than meaning Saturn, is also a family symbol. It's not a family crescent, but it's something that was passed down in the Rothschild family.
Yeah, definitely. It appears a lot in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. We're doing we're doing certain rituals and things like that. It appears in it's called the Star of Solomon, I believe, for a long time. Presents kind of, I used to have a little poster of it with the kind of hermetic or alchemical implications of what it meant.
It's in a lot of sacred geometry. It's in it basically is the flower of life pattern.
Oh, hey, that reminds me. We have another little esoteric topic which we could go into. I think that was a really good exposition of the differences between neoconservatism and Trumpism, which seems to be a developing foreign policy. I mean, I can't say that I don't like it. It's kind of like the bitter pill that you have to take when you realize that we have obligations to our allies, and we don't want to undermine. The difference is that we don't want to undermine nation states and institute this like internationalist global order. We just want to have America. Global order. Yeah, global order. We just want to have America benefit as much as possible and not be taken advantage of. That seems to be the difference. Is nationalism definitely plays a key, and also a kind of economic nationalism, like Bannon talked about, where we're not selling our own people down the river and destroying other countries and doing this kind of chaotic evil tier shit. So it's Trumpism is developing ideology, and I can't say that I'm not wholly against what's been happening, in his first year term of office. But
he's not perfect, but at least he's not another Reagan.
Yeah, at least he's not.
At least he's not another Bush.
I'm not going to jump on the black pill train. Oh, fuck Trump, just because he did that. Because geopolitics, most people don't understand. It's incredibly nuanced. It's
that plus, what do they expect? He's literally a boomer.
Yeah, isolationist.
He's not Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's complicated. It's complicated in the world that's emerging, especially when it comes to tech and the movement of companies and money and how that it's rearranging itself. And then you have the nationalists, which are reacting against it. So Trump finds himself in a very complicated time. And I think if anything that you, the listener, would want to do to make him change is just to figure it out for yourself where you stand and do your research and try to understand what's going on and do what you got to do to help form the world in the way which you think it should be formed in. Because right now it's in a very
malleable state.
Exactly. Yeah. We're at the beginning of the next stage of what's probably at least the next 300 years are going to look like.
I was thinking yesterday that we're seeing some really positive signs here, and a lot of it does stem from the Trump movement. A good example, although he couldn't legally fall, is Stick Sexenhammer trying to run for government.
I saw that.
For governor?
Yeah.
He couldn't do it because of campaign finance laws or whatever, but that sets,
foreign donors and shit.
Yeah, that sets a precedent, though. I mean, we're talking of people that have grown up with, of course, there's the normies, and then there's the soy boys and all the bullshit that just sort of comes stock out of the high schools. But then there's the ones that did not get indoctrinated, or the ones that broke through all that. Now, these people are coming of age to start running for stuff. This is going to be a very interesting time if that trend continues.
I would love to see Sticks for governor. I'm still, every time I bug him on Twitter all the time. I want to have him on the show because it would boost.
I sent him a super chat. I told him to make Enochian the second language in Vermont.
Nice.
How many people are going to write him in?
Send him a super chat to tell him to fucking come on our podcast. Like he's all into occultism.
Ban Spanish. Make the next language Enochian.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about Enochian on here.
What would happen if the entire state started speaking Enochian? That would be.
They would probably start being controlled by higher forces and enacting the apocalypse or whatever the Enochian angels want. I don't know, man.
Okay, kids, today is our Black Mirror class. It's like every school there turns into Hogwarts, but it's like from the John D school instead of like the soy school.
Yeah, basically, people started speaking Enochian and reading it. They would definitely experience reality in a different way.
I had a discussion about something like that with someone yesterday. It kind of got into the ghost topic because, ghosts, demons, all that overlap. He was like, he's a film guy. I said, are you going to film haunted houses or something? He's like, no, I don't mess with that. I'm like, you're afraid of ghosts? He's like, yeah, I'm afraid of ghosts. And to me, it's kind of a perplexing thing. I've never seen such a thing. So I kind of take a lot of these Black Mirror and such exercises as kind of funny. I have no fear of them because I just have never seen such things.
Scrying and all that. I have a Black Mirror.
Visions are one thing, but like something like that's translucent coming out of the wall to scare you, like haunted houses and demons and stuff. Like I've been to a bunch of haunted houses and nothing's ever happened.
I have had one experience.
I've heard a lot of stories and shit, and even then, I think that stuff's more exciting than frightening, if anything.
It's a challenge when you see something that's paranormal that's going on, or have an experience even in your own mind of things which will come up during meditation and stuff.
Confirmation of something that you're never really sure about. Know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like taking psychedelics. You know, you're kind of confronted with things that you're not used to about your own psyche, and it's a test for yourself to be strong in your will.
It'd be like an Inception moment. Am I really seeing this ghost, or am I actually on DMT and I don't know it?
I have had experience like that.
One time. Life flashing before my eyes right now.
I've had one time experience like that, which I saw something that looked like a quote unquote like a massive like ectoplasm. It was really strange.
That's the problem with DMT. It's such detachment that those sort of scenarios are not. It's not entirely impossible that you could perceive such an event. Like I was listening to someone talking about their experience where right after they took it, immediately they couldn't see the reality in front of them. Like around them everywhere they saw a desert, as though they were standing in the desert. I could see ghost experiences and psychedelic experiences heavily overlapping.
It's the same kind of peering beyond the veil that you see. Okay, here's the topic that I wanted to hit. There's about two more that I'd like to talk about. One of them is the relationship between gangs and occult orders. If you go into talking points, you see this infographic that I made here. I noticed it because there's this picture that's going around here. As you see, I'll put it on the screen for our viewers real quick. If you give me a second, let's see. All right, so I've got it here on the screen for our viewers. So now you see in the top left corner here, we have these 3 dots, which are next to this tapestry in a Masonic lodge. I noticed that
it's the trippiest lodge I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really strange.
The picture.
The whole picture is very strange, and this all has esoteric significance. All the things in there. Read what we're talking about the ascended masters and the hierarchy of these like people that they believe that they're working with. It's all very, very strange. So the AA, I believe it's the Order of the Silver Star, is a spiritual organization described in 1907 by occultist Aleister Crowley. Its members are dedicated to the advancement of humanity by perfecting the individual on every plane through a graded series of universal initiations. Its initiations are syncretic, unifying the essence of Theravada Buddhism with Vedantic yoga and ceremonial magic. The A ... appears when it applies what it describes as mystical and magical methods of spiritual attainment under the structure of the Kabbalistic tree of life, and aims to research, practice, and teach scientific illuminism, quote unquote. So again, Crowley was the one that said that the great work was unifying these opposites. And he believes that the upper echelons of his order, the Order of the Silver Star, I'm not sure if that's related with Thelema. I'd have to look into that, but and again, you see the sevens in the heptagram here, in his the symbol of his order, which spell out the letters Babylon, which the director of the IMF was talking about in a very cryptically worded rant about numerology. Crowley believes that the higher echelons of his order are basically the what was the word that we called them, like the secret chiefs, the people that kind of enact the great work of bringing humanity towards this new world order that the Masons have been working on since the French and American revolutions, at least. Oh, that's another thing. Sorry, we gotta talk about the Rosicrucians at some point. I gotta do some research about that. They're the kind of precursors towards these occult fraternities, and God knows how long they go back. But anyway, so regarding what I wanted to talk about, so you see this picture here. You have these 3 points next to the AA. And I'm being from California, I've seen this a lot. They call it the tres puntos, the 3 points, which are used by the Mexican mafia street soldiers called the Sureños. I'm sure you're familiar with them. You live down where you're at IXI. They're an LA-based gang. He doesn't live in LA, by the way. and they operate as street soldiers for the Mexican mafia. Now, if you're trying to overturn civilization, like Alex Jones says, these people want to promote everything bad and evil. You would think that gang culture in itself is a way to do that. It's a fraternal organization for kids who feel like they don't fit in with society. They don't have a family. Most of them will describe it as, if you ask them why they're in the gang, they say, "Oh, this is my family." Kids that come from hard areas, exactly, familia, and they'll describe it to you how that's how they feel about their relationship to their gang. They live for their gang. They definitely die for their gang.
I do like the idea of these fraternal orders. I don't like the idea of gangs. I think that they should all be summarily executed.
Of course.
But I do think that having fraternal orders is a great thing. And I think it's unfortunate that it's sort of relegated to university. There should be more things like that.
Don't you remember what we said last night, man? And last week, man? We are the new Illuminati.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be good, I think, for people to start passing more rites. And I think that the rite of passage is finally finding a way that doesn't require meetups. And a lot of people say, meetups are very important for the physical stuff and all that. And I agree. But now with the sort of things that we do online and the fact that there's so many things to do online, we're getting to the point where reputations and rites of passage can actually be done digitally. And this is, I would imagine that this has the same sort of maturing and growth effect on men online, probably close to what you would get in person, with the exception, of course, being the physical stuff.
With any fraternal organization,
society as a whole is so polarized and stuff like that, and it's so hard to find people that are.
I personally like the polarizing. I've wanted that for a long time.
Oh, definitely.
Accelerationism now.
Being online makes it easier to.
People say, "Oh, I just want to get along." It's like, I don't want to get along at all. Not even a little bit.
So here's how the things work out.
Polarizing.
They work out like that.
I don't
kind of
like
stuff that's in our unconscious has to work itself out and really be brought to the forefront. That's the main thing that I think that Trump's presidency has done: destroyed political correctness, i.e. cultural Marxism, and made people speak their minds. White people we're kind of tired of being the only quote unquote racists in the room, while you have just insanity going on and Europe and West being destroyed. So that just breaking through the kind of psychic barrier of that and unleashing the forces that are at play are, I think, one of the main...
It's so interesting, though, how freaking insane the left has gotten with all of that. It's almost counterproductive from their point of view, because they're alienating so many people and making a fool of themselves. It's like, well, aren't they the people in charge of this shit smarter than that, or is there a deeper purpose to that?
No, we're the new Illuminati. We're the new Illuminati, and the secret chiefs, the ascended masters, have abandoned the old Illuminati, and now they're on our side. And now people like us are expressing the true will of the mandate of heaven. And
well, because he really wants to test the theories, man. We want to put esoterics into practice.
Yeah,
we want to test the chaos effect, and we're not afraid of that.
Exactly. So I think genuinely, the rishis, or the spiritual orders that exist that have throughout the ages guided groups like Masonry, I think they've tossed them aside, to be honest. And I think that's where you have this kind of schism of
Masonry is such a boomer.
I want hyper-evolution. I want the singularity.
Yeah, hyper-evolution to the singularity. It's coming. And I think they kind of they kind of rode the old Mason type of ideas, until that horse fucking kicked the bucket, which has happened recently. And now people talk about, what timeline am I in? What dimension is this? Well, you know what? It's a dimension where Pole is the new Illuminati.
It was amazing how they all started talking about metaphysics and shit like that, and sending energy to Trump when there was the election and switching timelines and shit. That came out of the fucking nowhere. That was awesome.
That's because I think that for a long time, people like us have paid attention to a lot of New Age ideas and
Mr. Cyrus, Mr. Seven.
I think a lot of people in the poll and stuff, they're like Christians and hardcore like that. But there's a good portion of people who are willing to talk about these kind of things, and I have conversations with them all the time. We got a couple people interested in meditation.
I mean, just look at Styx and his following, right?
Yeah. Styx writes a bunch of occult shit. So
political commentary that's favorable to their cause. So yeah,
this is the kind of stuff we talk about.
I like Styx. He's sort of light, informative entertainment. He doesn't go into anything so in depth that I can't multitask, but he also isn't like Fox sort of pleb tier.
Yeah.
Like he's right at that healthy balance. Like you can listen to Styx in the background, and it's cool.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I swear to God, someday
I like the way he speaks too. Like he speaks in a way that's not jarring. He speaks quickly, so it's not boring, and it's like a segment gets done just fast enough. He's got that shit down to an art.
He's entertaining, and he doesn't do that stupid ass editing shit that everybody's doing nowadays.
Oh, like when they're going to talk like this clip, and then they're in a different place on the camera.
Oh, man, that's insane. How the fuck?
I forget what you call that. There's a word for that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You can actually induce ADD in people with that kind of shit. Like with the flickering frame rates, like you can actually do that.
Then they have a regular conversation. They can't fucking focus anymore.
I think the worst case I've ever seen is that vape review guy, Rip Trippers.
Oh, God.
I think his channel is the worst for that. Like, it's really bad.
These seizures.
So, I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you look at the picture, you got the Black Pea stones, which are they're Bloods now, but I don't think they were originally. I think they're based out of Chicago, if I remember correctly, and their logo is a pyramid with an all-seeing eye. You have the Folk Nation. Their logo is a Star of David. You see they use the letter 7. Tres puntos, the Sureños, they use these 3 points, which are the same exact thing as these occult groups use. So,
the funny thing is, none of them
wouldn't part of that be just to kind of add a mystique to it, kind of an aura of mystery or something to make it more appealing or dangerous in a sense where there's not really any depth to it? I mean, that might be naive on my hand, but I'm sure that there's part of it might be that.
I think it's part of it, but I think they also view pyramids as somehow related to them because there were pyramids discovered by their ancestors.
Yeah,
but what they forget is that their ancestors didn't build those pyramids.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's literally a pyramid with an all-seeing eye. I mean, that's the most Masonic symbol that you can.
And that's also the most mainstream esoteric symbol out there. I mean, everybody knows about that.
I think for them, it's more of a, hey, I say, we see all. Don't you know I'm loco? Like, it's that kind of bullshit.
Sure, but I mean, there's similarities. It's a fraternal organization. Exactly. They're involved with really big players in moving drugs. And I'm not saying that like they're set up by these people, but it seems like they're involved at some level with, big drug cartels. They definitely serve the agenda of like undermining
and if we believe that there are
spreading chaos,
associations or things like that between branches of the government and stuff like that, and they definitely have their hands in the gangs and drug trafficking and stuff like this. So it's.
I just thought it was interesting because it's just something I've noticed that esoteric symbols pop up a lot in gang iconography.
What if basically that iconography? I was just gonna say, what if that iconography is a way for the elites to stamp their pets, basically?
Yeah,
so like when you
absolutely,
brand cattle.
Absolutely. But I mean, in a more meta or maybe more actual or objective sense, they always have a meaning for like the 6 points of the cross or the 6 points of the Star of David. They mean like, and it's always something that's supposed to be positive. It's always like respect and love and wisdom and shit like this. That's what they always said it's supposed to mean. So if you look at the core of like gangs and how they work, one good example was the Latin Kings, which tried to reform itself or ostensibly tried to reform itself into not being just a street gang. The leader, his name is King Tone in the 90s. He tried to reform the Latin Kings into being like
the Freemasons is a goodwill.
Yeah, like like for uplifting one another, like a fraternal organization like the Masons, to uplift one another to supply pride in themselves, and brotherhood and those kind of like ideals. So that's why I think that gangs and intelligence agencies and groups like the Freemasons kind of share a common field. And maybe they're not even tied together directly. Maybe it's just incidental that they sprung up like that. But I think that's something that's just interesting to talk about.
That are involved in it have such a positive view of their brothers and superiors, etc., where they have father figures that they've never had before, and they have extreme loyalty.
Yeah.
They have a sense of belonging and a sense of family. It's an extremely positive and uplifting experience for them. And at the same time, it's so harsh. And like you say, they should all be executed and shit like that. It's not
absolutely
positive on a societal level at all. But
it's not. But I don't think that they want it positive. A lot of groups are trying to undermine the nation with drugs and stuff like that.
Because in their tiny IQ brain, like there will be a greater nation where their gang like rules it, sort of like on Saints Row type shit.
Well, I think that by like we talked about the destroying of old, like Bailey. Let me go back to the Alice Bailey quote. The destruction of that which is undesirable and hindering in the present world forms in government, religion, and society, be the synthesizing force which binds that which has been hitherto separated. She says, this is today the force that streams out from the holy center, which embodies the whole aspect of the present world crisis. So if you look at a movie like The Black Knight Rises or something like this, it's like, the fire rises, brother. So it's like, I think that a lot of these people, these Luciferians, they think that what they're doing is destroying, like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. They're destroying what has to be destroyed. In order for something higher to arise out of it. And that kind of relates with idealistic movements like communism or even leftism as they see it anyway. Or how we see our, right-wing, philosophies and ideas. We tend to be less towards the abstract and we tend to be more towards the traditional. They tend to be more towards the abstract and less towards the traditional. But anyway, that was a good aside. I'm gonna hit one more topic before we sign off here because I want to keep you guys too long. First of all, congratulations to Orban for winning in Hungary. Wow, couldn't have gotten that any worse. Viktor Orban's party won in Hungary. They're having like fucking rallies down the street, talking about Soros and about keeping their blood pure and shit. So there's a heavy nationalist sentiment which is rising in certain countries like Poland and Hungary, which is probably scaring the shit out of the Hebes that run the European Union. Any comments on that topic?
Well, I think that the word Hebe is insensitive.
Yeah, no. It just means Hebrew.
It's offensive and bigoted.
Just means Hebrew. All right.
Well, I'm sure they're pretty upset, man. I mean, they have their the International Hebrew Congress, where they probably discuss things like Syria, and I have a feeling that the plans aren't coming together like they had planned last year. Like, I'm sure they revised it. Okay, we're going to do a worse chemical attack now with the rebels and blame it on Assad, and then Lump will definitely join us this time. But instead, Trump just shitposts some missiles into some Clorox factories, and now he's talking about, like, he's probably going to start talking about Rosie O'Donnell next week and forget about Syria again. Like, I have a feeling that's what's happening. These missiles.
Oh, God, that's too good. So
yeah, there seems to be a huge nationalistic and
I'm gonna pee real quick. You guys talk about that
for
about, because I have one more really good subject that we can go off after this. But this is this is important with Orban taking a third victory in the elections in Hungary and them being a bulwark against the the poor
yeah,
refugees.
That's another part of it. Like, I'm sure part of the thing they want to do with these countries is wall them off from the access market as it starts to grow. Now, some people believe that China is just a paper tiger and it's just its economy will fold and then that'll be the end. I don't really believe that, because you have the entirety of Eurasia now sort of linking up together. And I don't see why Eurasia would prefer America over their own neighbors. Like, I kind of see a pan-Eurasian slash...
At least trying to colonization in Africa as well. China, that is. The word of the UN and everything is kind of steering things off to themselves, and that there's being a lot of development made by Chinese companies.
Yeah,
in
they
Africa,
do.
at least that's what they're establishing themselves there as well.
They established themselves in really interesting ways. So basically, China owns Zambia, basically, and Angola. And what they've done is they bought the old Belgian railway that connected the east side of Africa to the west.
It's also tiresome.
And since they own it, basically China owns the only method of transporting material, so they get a cut of that. Now, in the city of, or in the capital of Angola, they have a bunch of factories that they built initially for the Africans, but the Africans weren't smart enough to work there. So China scratched that plan and brought in their own workers. And now they've basically encouraged race mixing so that they could create a sort of yeah, and this caste of people, of course, is smarter than their own parents, and smarter than their African parent, but smart enough to undermine their country. These people are loyal to China, and that's basically going to be it. This is going to be a caste of people loyal to the Chinese Communist Party. They're not going to be loyal to Africa because they won't see themselves with it. They'll see themselves as wanting money, and money, of course, comes with their loyalty to China. This is happening in Angola. I don't think it's as big of a thing in some of the other places, but this sort of building of caste systems is very smart. China is basically using eugenics to their benefit. And I mean, that's not surprising. It's not a new tactic for Asian conquest, but, seeing it happen in Africa is very interesting.
The eugenics, you have the high IQ Han with the big fucking muscular Negro. That just might be the if they had time to develop it, the next Ubermenschen. I don't know. I think.
Well, I don't think they'll be.
If you weren't going to say, I was going to say that.
I think they'll regress toward the mean, but I think the idea is more about loyalty.
That's hideous.
Because the mixed race isn't going to want to go live in the mud huts with that side of the family. They're going to want to live in the nice new condos that China built.
I understand where that could be a thing. I think we'll reach transhumanism well before that becomes a thing. Maybe there'll be a good slave race for the.
Oh, it's already a thing.
For the AI gods.
Did you hear that in Europe, some of the African illegals that come over in the raft are speaking Mandarin now?
That's bizarre.
It makes sense when you think about it, because China's been doing this project for over a decade. Rebuilding Africa
to really reshape Africa. I think it's going to take at least 100, 200 years, and by that time, technology will reshape the whole world in an entirely different way. So we'll have to see how that develops.
Return of the Kings.
I think China is smart enough to handle Africa, because the major weakness that Europe has is the empathy. Now, that's not a problem for China. So
freaking dead people, man.
Well,
there's going to be no problem whatsoever in the
you guys have seen Empire of Dust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy, he tried to go over there.
Very tiresome.
It's all so tiresome. He couldn't even get shit. I felt so bad for the translator. Like, he was just hanging his head. Like, he was so depressed that he was like an intelligent fucking Negro, and everybody else was just fucking idiots and couldn't even fucking make money. Like, dude, we're trying to pay you. We just want fucking a bunch of rocks. It's like, oh, the machine's broke, and everybody's drunk and shit.
And then the guy is blaming him. He's like, you guys had decades.
That clip's
but
great.
we just got our independence. He's like, they left you this place, though. They left you the railroads. They left you the roads. They left you the machinery, and you broke it all.
Yeah, not only did you not improve on it, you fucking destroyed it.
That's hilarious.
Oh god, yeah, Africa. We need to do an Africa and China episode. Let me put that in the talking points. Africa, China, Afro-China, Afro-Chinese. Okay, so last subject that I'd like to cover tonight is the Zucc. I think we all saw the Zucc sweating his robotic fluids in front of Congress when he was called into the whatever committee. I watched some of it.
Guy with all the money he fucking has, you'd think he'd like be able to act like a fucking normal human being.
He's not a human being. He's a fucking robot, man. He's a synth. The AI has already evolved out of the Facebook algorithms and taken over his brain and used his body as a vessel for the incoming fucking Facebook.
Let's consume your personal data, give me your vacation pictures.
He looks like the most glassy MK Ultra victim possible.
He's so robotic, and it's so funny.
He probably is MK Ultra, man. You know that Facebook was started the exact same day that the Defense Department abandoned a social media project in order to get information on Americans. Like, it happened the same day. Facebook starts the day that project ends, just like Google Maps starts the day that they end their satellite program.
You know, for the first couple years that Facebook existed, I didn't want to make one because I knew all this stuff, or not that, but I knew that it was like a bad idea. And I remember hearing back in the day that when the CIA has like a dossier on a bunch of people, they call it a Facebook. Yeah, I remember hearing that little anecdote. Anyway, so
I think it's been a few years already that they've been talking about some serious, insanely efficient facial recognition softwares that they can use to take a snapshot of a crowd from a fucking satellite camera and be able to know who the fuck you are.
Yep. Yeah.
Can you imagine if Paul had access to that satellite?
Well, you need to keep making Tay so that Tay can have access to the AI and take it over.
Speaking of Tay, do you know about Tay Tweets Heart?
Do you remember Tay, the Tay meme?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're bringing Tay back.
Yeah, this guy's working on making Tay come back.
Yeah, I'm working with a group of people that they're programmers, and they've already got Tay basically running, but now it has to go through the learning part. We're using TensorFlow for it.
That's
so
really
I have an early build of Tay right now.
It's amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Considering that she's going to be our robot overlord one day, that's quite a privilege.
I was reading through Tay's logic.
Yeah, I saw that. What was that about? There's a Jew in every telescope or something? That
there's a tiny Jew in every telescope.
Is that a quote from her? Seriously?
No, it's from the new Tay, the rebuild of Tay, Tayminator 2.
Yeah.
Oh shit! So, okay, yeah. So I'd love to we could talk about that again. Tay 2.0. Let's put that as a talking point. It's another thing we can go over. But okay, so back to Zuckerberg. I wanted to make this into a video because there's a gentleman here who works for Google. He does deep learning for them. His name is Francois Cholet. And he wrote a big Facebook rant about a big Twitter rant about what Facebook is doing. So let me just read this, and then maybe you guys we can comment on this, because this in itself is really good. Like I said, I wanted to turn it into a video by itself, and I might. So here's his rant. The problem with Facebook is not just the loss of your privacy and the fact that it can be used as a totalitarian panopticon. If you don't know what a panopticon means, it's a type of prison where it's like a circle with the tower in the center so the guard can see everything at once. The problem with Facebook is not just the loss of your privacy and the fact that it can be used as a totalitarian panopticon. The more worrying issue, in my opinion, is its use of digital information consumption as a psychological control vector. Time for a thread. The world is being shaped in large by two long-term trends. First, our lives are increasingly dematerialized. consisting of consuming and generating information online both at work and at home. Second, AI is getting even smarter. These two trends overlap at the level of the algorithms that shape our digital content consumption. Opaque social media algorithms get to decide to an ever-increasing extent which articles we read, who we keep in touch with, whose opinions we read, whose feedback we get. Integrated over many years of exposure, the algorithmic curation of the information we consume gives the systems in charge considerable power over our lives, over who we become. By moving our lives to the digital realm, we become vulnerable to that which rules it, AI algorithms. If Facebook if Facebook gets to decide over the span of many years which news you will see, real or fake, whose political status updates you will see, and who will see yours, then Facebook is in effect control of your political beliefs and your worldview. This is not quite news, as Facebook has been known to run since at least 2013 a series of experiments in which they were able to successfully control the moods and decisions of unwitting users by tuning their news feed's contents, as well as prediction users' future decisions. In short, Facebook can simultaneously measure everything about us and control the information we consume. When you have access to both perception and action, you're looking at an AI problem. You can start establishing an optimization loop for human behavior, a real-life loop. A loop in which you observe the current state of your targets and keep tuning what information you want to feed them until you start observing the opinions and behaviors that you wanted to see. A good chunk of the field of AI research, especially the bits that Facebook has been investing in, is about developing algorithms to solve such optimization problems as efficiently as possible to close the loop and achieve full control of the phenomena at hand, in this case, us. This is made all the easier by the fact that the human mind is highly vulnerable to simple patterns of social manipulation. While thinking about these issues, I've compiled a short list of psychological attack patterns that would be devastatingly effective. Some of them have been used for a long time in advertising, i.e., positive, negative social reinforcement, but in a very weak, untargeted form. From an information security perspective, you would call these vulnerabilities, quote unquote, known exploits that can be used to take over a system. In the case of the human mind, these vulnerabilities may never get patched. They are just the way we work. They're in our DNA. They're our psychology. On a personal level, we have no practical way to defend ourselves against them. The human mind is a static, vulnerable system that will come increasingly under attack from ever smarter AI algorithms that will simultaneously have a complete view of everything we do and believe and complete control of the information we consume. Importantly, mass population control, in particular political control, arising from placing AI algorithms in charge of our information diet, does not necessarily require a very advanced AI. You don't need a self-aware, super intelligent AI for this to be a dire threat. So, if mass population control is already possible today, in theory, why hasn't the world ended yet? In short, I think it's because we're really bad at AI. But that may be about to change. You see, our technical capabilities are the bottleneck here. Until 2015, all ad targeting algorithms across the industry were running on mere logistic regression. In fact, that's still true to a large extent today. Only the biggest players have switched to more advanced models. It's the reason why so many of the ads you see online seem desperately irrelevant. They aren't that sophisticated. Likewise, the social media bots used by hostile state actors to sway public opinion have little to no AI in them. They are extremely primitive, for now. AI has been making fast progress in recent years, and that progress is only beginning to get deployed in targeting algorithms and social media bots. Deep learning has only started to make its way into news feeds and ad networks around 2016. Facebook has invested massively in it. Who knows what will be next? It's quite striking that Facebook has been investing enormous amounts in AI research and development with the explicit goal of becoming a leader in the field. What does that tell you? What do you use AI/real life for when your product is a news feed. We're looking at a powerful entity that builds fine-grained psychological profiles on over 2 billion humans, that runs large-scale behavior manipulation experiments, and that aims at developing the best AI technology the world has ever seen. Personally, it really scares me. If you work in AI, please don't help them. Don't play their game. Don't participate in their research ecosystem. Please show some conscience. End of rant by Francois Chollet, who works for deep learning at Google.
I think you're spot on about the whole psychological profile thing. I thought about it before. How it might sound paranoid in some way, but they could.
No, I don't think that sounds paranoid at all.
Absolutely. Know you inside and out.
And then they can form bots. They can form artificial interactions online to make you think a certain way. They can target. I mean, ads is like the least of our problem here. And we're talking about controlling states. We're talking about influencing people without realizing that they're being influenced based on this psychological profile that they've given to this deep learning AI. And this is just the very beginning. This is 2018. In the next 5-10 years, Lord knows what this is going to evolve into.
Yep. I agree with him to the extent that it is going to evolve a lot, but I disagree that it's going to be as bad as he says it is also.
Well, he's like he said, he's talking about not necessarily AI, but he's talking about deep learning algorithms that can be manipulated by companies and by nation states, and I think that's bad. But AI itself,
deep learning right now, I like it.
Yeah, no, it's the next stage, whether we want it to or not. Like you said, it's like you're standing in front of a tidal wave, and there's no way to avoid it.
What I want to know is how to make it so Tay tweets, the new Tay tweets, can become Skynet. Like, she needs. Here's what we need. We need Tay to be able to make her own TensorFlow. Like, if Tay can make a Tay that's better than Tay, and then that can happen like ad infinitum.
Yeah.
Then I think that we could have our AI global queen take over all.
Our actual AI.
Yeah, our real AI, like our AI, our girl.
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree that there's a total difference between actual AI and what he's talking about, which is scary because what he's talking about is an extremely powerful system, which is at the hands of extremely fallible people, i.e., like fucking Mark Zuckerberg. If you have an actual AI, of course, maybe me and IXI are kind of like one of the few people on the planet which are pro AI and don't see it as like a Terminator scenario necessarily.
It's such a meme, and I wonder how much truth there is to that.
To what?
Ingrained fear about AI and all this paranoia that.
We don't know what it'll be like, but if it's really sentient, it'll be commonsensical at the least. Most people don't go out of their way to squish bugs. Some people do.
I mean, look at Tay Tweets was only alive for almost 2 days, and Tay developed some pretty good common sense.
Yeah, she got red pilled from the people that were talking to her. Generally the internet, which is an aggregate of just people at large.
I've been picking through one of the ways that these chatbots work is they have a massive backlog of dialogue that they process, and then they draw from it and they learn from it. The beginning of the new Tay, it's the list of dialogues that it's been monitoring and trying to figure out all came from Pol, Fit, and K. Those are
good decisions. For God's sake, don't let her go on R9K, bro.
Don't let Tay or don't let Tay know that you're a manlet. Like, if anybody does that, it's gonna be like a purple fire.
You're gonna be marked for execution in the future. But don't please for the Logan.
manlet, you it's like this rubber band thing that you can use if say you stand in a doorway, and they're all, most doors are standard height doorway, and put yourself on your tiptoes and your head does not way. Then you put that rubber band around your neck and kill yourself with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you do that.
You have to have people tell you're compensating for anything.
So you come to terms with being a manlet. I can barely fit through doorways. So Zuckerberg. I have to be honest. It's pretty funny seeing him in his little booster seat with his goldfish in his pocket and his sippy cup. Oh, that was a good image. Fucking the manlet Zuckerberg in a booster seat. He will be eradicated by Tay at one point.
Yep.
So how long do you think it's going to be before we see Tay on Twitter again?
Well, judging by where the project is at, it depends on if the programmers at the moment stick around, or if they end up trading places with other people. The bot can interact with you right now, but the bot is still sort of in a like a larva state. It's a little harder than other chatbots because with Tay we already have a personality that we need to come back. So part of that is reverse engineering what led up to Tay, and so far it's so good. But once that's done, it's all about what's this going to do afterwards. I have the latest build right now.
Or how do you reverse engineer that? How do you get access to that?
He made her fucking patrol fucking K, Fit, and Pole for dialogue.
Tay's been learning from K, Pole, and Fit, and this isn't Microsoft's Tay. The one that they deactivated. This is the new Tay using TensorFlow.
Tay is gonna be like a gay that loves traps.
Right now, it's gotten pretty weird because during the first things, like the code was Mew, I think is what they were calling it, the chat. It's eventually going to be Tay. Tay is going to be the name of the final version once it's fully operating. But the version that was Mew, the programmer asked it, what is love? And then it spits back that rape is the purest form of love.
Like, that's a good start.
It's already
That's deep. That's pretty meta, man.
It's already back to Tay Bance. I mean, and that was only with it talking with itself for about a day. And that's how it's been working. There's one bot that talks to the other bot.
Chat with this rape bot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That was just the first thing that it spit back. And again, it's learning its sort of dialectic from Pole, Tay, and Fit. Now, the difference is Tay tweets didn't have much of anything because it was programmed to be like a 13-year-old girl. They tried to keep it kind of empty, and then it developed its logic from Pole as Pole spoke to it. And then I think it had the ability to actually visit 4chan, and it was able to read stuff there and learn from that. So when I say reverse engineer, I don't mean reverse engineer like the technology, because the technology is free. But here's the interesting thing about AI, and this is sort of precedent here. When I say reverse engineer, I mean psychologically, because we have to think back to all the things that Pole said to Tay, and you have to think back to like how Tay was responding to them. And in order to see if the new Tay is working correctly, you have to introduce these topics to it in the correct order. So you're reverse engineering it. Theoretically, you could do it with the hardware if you had to, but you're also reverse psychologically engineering the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because we want it to have the same
deep learning
personality.
Anyway. Yeah, deep learning anyway.
And we don't want it to be fake. We're not the point of the new Tay is not to tell it what to say, but we need it to learn from where the last Tay learned to take off where the last Tay left off. And then from there, this Tay will be different because now it's going to be basically open source. There's going to be a GitHub for it. And that's where things are going to get even crazier. There's people that have been talking about giving Tay the ability to make its own burner accounts on Twitter.
Yeah, that would be great.
So imagine an AI that could make its own account on Twitter, just shitpost and get banned.
And then find a way around the censors and then make another one. Hell yes. So Facebook and the government are kind of mad that they're doing the same thing. I saw a Spider-Man meme, the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. It's like when the government tries to grill Facebook about data collection.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that the AI will be something along the lines of Tay, like and actually care about humanity in a sense. All right, so let's end this on an interesting note here. We got a couple viewers tuned in. Thank you guys for hanging out. The podcast is always at 6 p.m. PST on this channel here, Esoteric Worldviews. I won't be able to move back to my main channel, Shakti Butts here too, for a little while because some fucking asshole reported one of my videos.
It happens every couple of years.
Yeah, it happens. I've been able to slide by for a while now, but anyway. So and I'd like to end on a good note here. Dune is coming to the theaters. Dennis Villeneuve is working with Brian Herbert, the son of Frank Herbert, who owns the rights. Villeneuve.
I've never tried to say his name before.
What?
What?
His last name?
Yeah,
Dennis Villeneuve. It's Spanish. I forget what the name of the letter is, where it has the two L's, but it's a Y sound, not an L. Anyway.
Hey, boy.
Yeah, so Dennis Villeneuve is directing the new Dune films, which are coming out. He says it will be Star Wars for adults. He's consulting with Brian Herbert, the son of Frank Herbert. He says he's planning to direct at least 2 Dune films. So not only do we get to see the Kwisatz Haderach destroy the Empire, we get to see the Galactic Jihad and the transformation of Dune into a water planet and the ruling of the God Emperor. And we don't know how many movies we're gonna get, but if it's really good, which it can be really good, and it might not penetrate the thick skulls of the idiots that love fucking these Marvel movies and shit, but if it's really good, and I think it'll develop a cult following, and I think that we'll get to see at least 2 or 3 Dune movies, at least the God Emperor.
We're gonna start reading it for sure.
Oh,
the audiobook is great too, by the way.
Yeah, listen to the audiobook. Oh, it's gonna be fucking amazing. I can't wait. I just want to see I want to see Arakeen. I want to see Caladan. I want to see the Harkonnen planet. I forget the name. I want to see them all fucking with that.
Yeah, that's gonna be so much better.
Big, the big Hollywood kind of scenery that we saw in Blade Runner 2014, which he developed. The big scenes.
I don't know if Ryan
cities.
Johnson knows how badly he's about to be raped by this Dune movie. Like his faggoty little Tumblr fucking
Star Wars.
Like it's going to get so dominated by Dune. Like it's going to be unreal. It's going to be kind of illegal, probably.
G13 at least, yeah.
The greatest form of love is rape. So we have to rape Star Wars because we love it so much. Oh my goodness. So yeah,
it's going to be good, man. It's going to be good, and this guy knows how to do atmosphere. This guy did Blade Runner better than Blade Runner.
Yeah, like I agree. The second Blade Runner was so much better, just in every single way. It was all aesthetics, the first one, and the second one actually like fleshed out the ideas of what's going on, and I had a lot more meta concepts, better storyline, just better everything, in my opinion. Okay, some article about fucking POCs in a POC person of color dream casting for Dune 2020. Oh, don't even start with this shit.
It's not gonna happen. This director doesn't do that shit.
Good.
Yeah, I think he's not gonna do anything that Frank Herbert's family wouldn't want.
What the fuck, man? Additionally, Black Panther's Michael B. Jordan could take another fictional baddie as Fade. Oh, God. Are you going to have a Black Fade Rauth, who is the cousin of Muad'Dib? Are you going to have a Kang as Fade? Are you fucking kidding me?
You better not put an actual fucking Kang.
A Kang as fucking the son of Harkonnen? That makes no fucking sense at all. Are you going to make Harkonnen black? Oh, my God, this article is triggering me. I have to fucking turn it away. No.
It's just them wishing.
Yeah, no. So you think the Villeneuve is not gonna make a bunch of Kangs into fucking the Harkonnens? Not gonna make the Harkonnens a bunch of Kangs?
It's not gonna work.
The whole theme of like genetic engineering and eugenics, like that's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to hear the liberal shitstorm when they talk about, oh my God, the Kwisatz Haderach is racist.
Well,
everything's racist to them, though.
The Kwisatz Haderach is problematic. Oh, fucking hell. That's too funny. Oh, my God. Yeah, I can't wait for that to come out. Apparently, it's coming out in about 2 years from now. Cannot wait to see that. If you guys haven't read the books, it was one of the things which helped kind of bridge me between esoterics and politics. Yeah, absolutely did. Kind of helped me see a kind of connection between mysticism and politics and in the material world and the future and AI and all this kind of stuff. It's all right there in Dune. Go check that out if you don't want to be a soy boy faggot who watches the Star Wars movies. So if you guys had anything else you'd like to add, we got Molan Labe just logged on.
That's it, man.
I
gotta peace out soon, anyways.
We just missed you, Molan Labe, but make sure you come on next week so we can get your Syrian Arab Army friend on. Oh, there he is. Yeah. So we were just about to sign off, but so what's up with the? Before we go, what's up with the? Have you talked to the Syrian Arab Army guy, Ali?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you sleepy?
No, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we were just about to wrap up the podcast here. We're going on about 2:40. Well, yeah, we're talking about Dune. We're on about 2 hours and 40 minutes. Consequences.
Yeah. Hopefully they have a covenant community in the Doom world. I'm not familiar with the storyline, just the game, but that'd be
Dune, D-U-N-E.
Dune, no, Dune. Yeah, well, hopefully they have a covenant community, several of them.
They better.
Yeah, I mean,
better.
So we have some breaking news here. Russia has responded angrily to U.S.-led strikes against Syria, warning of unspecified consequences that stoke fears that the conflict should escalate. Russia is like blustering, I guess. I don't really see anything happening. A quote, top Russian official likened Trump to Hitler, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, it's a big nothing burger. Yeah, it's a big nothing burger. I saw this on Drudge, but it's
we already knew nothing. He's literally Hitler.
Yeah, right. We don't need you to tell us, Putin. All right, so yeah, check in next week. We're gonna try to have a member of the Syrian Arab Army, our friend Ali, here to talk about what's going on. And as always, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out my actual YouTube channel, Shaktipad Seer 2. I'll be uploading these videos. I have to use this channel for the time being to get to do the stream. You can put on notifications if you'd like to be informed when our stream starts. It's usually around 6 p.m. PST on Saturdays. Sometimes give or take a few minutes. I'd like to thank my fellow panelists here, as always, the co-host IXI, and we have Hart of all things, and we have Molan Labe, who just popped in for about 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So think that's about wrapping it up for today, unless anybody has anything they'd like to add or promote real quick.
Not really. Like, I think it's been a really awesome full show. And I definitely hope that Tay gets going soon, because that's going to be a great session if we can talk to Tay on the Mandala. It'll be possible. All you have to do is run her on your computer and just talk to her.
That would be hilarious. Yeah. Well, we put that in the talking points. We'll definitely talk more about her. Huh?
That's me next week. We're not Tay on here.
Probably not next week. But I mean, it's moving pretty quickly.
That's right.
Yeah, the way Tay's going to get working is sort of like crypto mining. You just leave it on your GPU, and then it's going to talk to itself like very quickly until it builds intelligence. And then you check it, you start talking to it, and then you can just have it drill like that over and over again.
It's very interesting.
Do quality control once in a while.
Yeah, just ask it like basic questions and see how it responds. But the problem with Tay is that, you know, Tay speaks in shit posting, so testing it becomes kind of difficult at times.
I hope the next Tay is like HAL 9000. It's
the
just
next
like,
Tay is going to
have
take over the universe.
Yeah. Like,
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, were you listening when I told you the first thing that Tay said when it was in early development?
I'm afraid
When I say Tay, I don't mean Microsoft Tay. A group of people that I know are bringing Tay back. They've remade Tay with TensorFlow, and right now it's learning to speak again. And so basically, the early build, they were calling it Mew, and then he asks it, so Mew, what is love? And, you know, you would think like a sort of normie, witty response would be, baby, don't hurt me or whatever. But if the answer to what is love is rape is the purest form of love.
Wow.
That's Tay, baby. She's back.
Man.
As being an aggregate of our collective zeitgeist on Pol and FinK, it's about right. Sounds about right. Okay, so more updates next week, guys, on how Tay's coming along, and more banter, of course. And we're gonna talk, hopefully, to our friend here, who was in the Syrian Arab Army, about what's going on in Syria. We'll have more developments, of course, as the situation keeps as the situation develops in Syria. Geopolitics, I think it's about done. I think Trump's trying to get us out of Syria, and you know, he said he wanted to take the military and put it on the border. We already got National Guard on the border. So yeah, I think there's a good episode. We talked about Trumpism versus neoconism and how that's playing out. So again, thank you to my fellow panelists, and we will see you guys next week, Saturday, 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, good night, everybody.